Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Ted Flint. With us today, Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin, who serves the 108th Assembly District, which includes parts of 4 counties: Rensselaer, Albany, Columbia, and Greene. Assemblyman McLaughlin, nice to see you.
Thank you, Ted. Good to be here.
By the time this program airs, it'll be the middle of March, and we are right in the middle of budget season, 2 weeks away from the April 1st budget deadline. And I hear tell that conference committees will begin soon, and that hasn't happened in 3 years here.
Yeah, although the law says that they're supposed to happen
That's
every
right.
year. It hasn't happened for 3, so that was a big bone of contention for me last year as a candidate, that the budget committee, the conference committees hadn't been meeting. It really violates a law that the legislature passed, so they violated their own law.
Yeah.
So good to see that we're going to have the conference committees again starting up next week, so it's getting very interesting around here.
For those who are maybe not familiar with conference committees and what they do, I mean, that kind of opens up the process, makes it more transparent.
Yeah,
it gives
absolutely.
rank and file members more input, too.
Absolutely, and that's the key for us, especially right now, because it's a different budget season than we've seen in the past. Certainly the first time for me that I'm seeing it at all, but talking to the members that have been here for a while, it's a different animal that we're dealing with this year. So lots to learn, but also so much right now that's unknown about what we're going to see next week. And but it's starting to become clear day by day. So, and we certainly have a parade of people coming through the office asking not to be cut, and I understand that. But these are difficult times, and some really tough choices that we're going to have to make.
One of your colleagues was telling me today that usually those constituent meetings were reserved for Tuesdays, only Tuesday. Now it's every day the legislature's in session.
Yeah.
They're knocking on your door, and they're giving you good reasons why their group should not be cut.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the group to come in and say, go ahead and cut us, we're fine.
It's not going to happen.
That doesn't happen, but we hold out hope, I guess. But, everybody has good, heartfelt reasons why they should not be cut, and we get that. The problem is there just simply is no money. So I think that if we are all in this together, we all sort of try to take as little cuts as we can, but still get the job done, which is to get this state back on track. So I think it's going to be shared sacrifice. The problem becomes sometimes you do look at instances where certain groups are getting hit harder than other. Case in point, the proposed education budget that we're dealing with. Upstate New York, you could very well make the argument that upstate New York is getting hit harder than we should in this budget proposal. That may change, but right now where we are is 45% of the student enrollment. We're taking 53% of the proposed cuts. So you could make the argument that we're taking more than our fair share of those cuts, and that's our job as legislators to advocate for that, to make sure that everything is sort of spread out evenly.
That was kind of part of your message when you heard testimony at the Education Committee hearing recently.
Yeah.
Andrew Pallotta, I want to say Andrew Galata, but he's a boxer. Andrew Pallotta from NYSET, and you heard testimony from him. Let's take a look at that.
Sure. Right.
And we'll come back and we'll comment further with Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin.
Does the circuit breaker, to your knowledge, do anything to rein in what many taxpayers see as out-of-control spending? It's kind of a two-part question. The other thing is, can you give me a comparison? I believe we spend approximately $17,000 per student in New York. I believe that's about $4,000 per child more than Massachusetts, where I was educated and learned to read and write and spell. And I'm wondering where we stand. We talk a lot about performance and achievement, all vital pieces of our education system. My wife is a kindergarten teacher, so I'm very well aware of what can happen here. But I'm just curious as to where we stand nationally on the rankings and how we compare to Massachusetts. They're spending $4,000 less. Kind of fill us in on that.
Right. Well, there's a number out there, this number that we're number 1 in spending and number 34 in results, and we've already addressed that. That is based on some figures that were produced a couple of years ago. If we look at Education Week, which is an independent source, we were number 2 in results last year. So we know that the expenses are high here. I live in Westchester County. I know that the taxes are high, but I also know that I live there because I can send my kids to excellent schools. So there is a high cost. As far as Massachusetts, they did enact the tax cap, but they also, at the same time, put billions of dollars into education from the state. So while they cap taxes locally, they put funding into it.
And you had a response to him at that point, which was not included in that piece. Your response was?
Yeah, the answer can't just be more money, more money, more money. And I would, we can go back and forth on where we stand nationally, but the facts are the facts, and our graduation rates are not nearly where they should be. And that's my whole point. It isn't that anybody is griping about spending the money. But with that amount of money being spent, I think the real issue is how much of that's getting to the classroom. And it's about 27 cents on the dollar. That's pretty dismal. So clearly we have far too much bureaucracy in education. I dealt with it in my own school district out at Hoosick Valley where my children go. We had 2 buildings, 3 principals for a few years there. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all to have 2 buildings and 3 principals. So we, to their credit, they cut that position, got back on track. But there was a couple of years there where it was ludicrous. And I guarantee that isn't the only example of what's going on as far as waste goes. So my point is, I want results. I absolutely want results. Our minority graduation rates are dismal. They're not acceptable. Our graduation rates statewide are not acceptable. Now, individually, I know each school is working as hard as they can. I get that. My wife's a teacher. I know a lot of educators, a lot of administrators. I understand the pain that they're under and the pressure that they're under. But I have to look at it not only in the 108th Assembly District, but statewide. And the fact of the matter is, when I see graduation rates where they are, based on where they should be nationally, we're not performing, I don't think, the way we should be. I want more money into the classroom, not into the bureaucracy. So imagine if we could we're at 27 cents on the dollar. Imagine if we got that to 30 or 40 or 50 cents on the dollar going into the kids, into their classrooms. I guarantee we'd see results. The other thing is, I really think we need to get out of the way and let the teachers teach. They know how to teach these kids. We need to get out of the way and let them do that. So NICE is not completely at fault. The legislature is not completely. There's a lot of blame to go around here. I'm not anti-education. I just demand results for the money that we're spending.
That's it. I mean, if more money translated to higher grades, we would be number 1.
Clearly, because we've
not 34th or 2nd even, but
yeah, say which
right.
wherever statistics you want to pick out, but the money has not resulted in the results I think that we should be seeing. Because you're right, if the results follow the money, we'd be number 1. We've been spending the most
That's right.
for quite a long time, and I just think that the people are at the point where they're saying, we don't mind spending it, but we just don't have it to give anymore. You know, it has to end at some point where we've got to kind of rein this in. And the truth of the matter is Massachusetts is doing quite well on $4,000 less. Mr. Pilato's right, they did increase state aid, but it's still $4,000 less per student that's being spent, and the results are fine. They're outperforming us in far too many areas. So that's my point.
And they enacted a tax cap as well, didn't they? Is it 4% out there?
It's 2.5%, I think, in Massachusetts. Right. And they can override it, as we can here if this gets enacted. You're going to be able to override it individually, in the community. So, but Massachusetts has dealt with it. Their schools are performing okay. It's not perfect. There's no perfect panacea here. But we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. And I think the tax cap is the first step to getting the state back on track.
Okay, you met recently with, you had a town hall meeting.
Yeah, that was great.
With Congressman Gibson.
Yep.
And it was this week.
Monday night, after the storm, yeah.
Yeah, and have another one planned for Chatham on the 23rd?
23rd. It's going to be hopefully very well attended. Hopefully everybody comes out to see us down there. The Congressman and I had a great time. We spoke for a few minutes each. Congressman gave us an update on what he's got going on in Washington for the first 60 days. He just came back from Iraq and Afghanistan visiting our troops, gave us an update on that, and then I was able to give an update on Albany about what is going on and what is not going on in Albany. And then we just threw it open to the audience and let them have their say. And there was about 40 people showed up, and I'm glad it wasn't a breakfast meeting because the weather was pretty rough that morning, but 40 people showed up and had great questions for us. So we just went back and forth and really had a great time. Stood there for 2 hours answering questions. Fantastic. We had a great time.
It was a rough day. You get mostly ice or snow?
We got a nice mix.
Yeah. What's the chief concern or chief concerns of the people with whom you spoke?
Yeah, certainly the budget. I mean, you hear a lot about that, but also the budget, and then you get into the context of taxes, and we had a gentleman there from Averill Park School District, very well thought out, saying that we were underfunded, and I respectfully disagreed. I said, it's not that we're underfunded, it's the money isn't getting to the classrooms, as I stated earlier. But then you have a gentleman behind him that owns a business saying, my taxes have gone up 55% in 5 years. I can't continue to do this. It's not that I don't want to help. I just can't continue to maintain that pace. So it's really trying to work through both issues there. But mainly it was budget, it was taxes, it was education, all the things you would expect. Right. But some of it was constitutional freedom. Some of it was right to keep and bear arms. There's a lot of very varied mix. But it was fantastic. Yeah, it was great.
It'd be nice if you do something more, not you personally, but I mean the legislature to encourage business growth, to maybe cap in property taxes would help businesses too.
It's a start, and that's why you see the NFIB and the Business Council and the business groups all around the state that are clamoring for this, because the only way, I've said this over and over again, the only way to afford the public sector is a healthy, vibrant private sector.
That's how it works.
That's it. And for New York to be dead last on the list of business-friendly states, that's completely unacceptable to me, and it is the number one reason I ran for office, was to try to help revamp and revitalize the private sector. We have to get out of their way and let them create jobs. It isn't going to be us in Albany or Washington that gets this done. It's the private sector putting people to work. That's what's going to make this economy recover.
A small victory concerning a small business, a liquor store in your district. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was great. We got a phone call from a liquor store in my district, and they were facing some problems. They were literally going to have to close their doors within about 5 days of the time we got the phone call. The owner of the liquor store had passed away a couple of years ago. The children called the liquor authority, and their advice was, you have to keep operating or else you're going to lose your license. So they're in the midst of their grief and everything else. This was 2 or 3 days after the gentleman had passed, so they continued to operate the store, and thinking that they were okay. Well, when it came time to renew the license, the deceased gentleman was on the license, so they couldn't renew. What we did is, and to the liquor authority's credit, we got on the phone with them. We called New York City. They responded immediately, helped us out, helped the person out, their family out, and as a result, that store remained open, providing a service to the community, but also providing those jobs and an income to that family that owns that liquor store. So that's a great victory for us. It's not a gigantic thing district-wide or statewide, but you know what? To those people, it meant the world, because they were going to have to close their doors. So we were very happy to help. And thank you to the liquor authority for jumping in and really helping us.
And it's surprising they did so well and so quickly without incident.
They did great. I can't say enough good things. They did great. Their counsel was fantastic in New York City. No roadblocks. They told us exactly what needed to be done, and then the people went out and took care of it, and it's a success. So that's gives you a wonderful feeling as a legislator, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's helping the people in your district.
A couple minutes left. We have just enough time for you to introduce some 4-Hers on the floor.
Oh, great.
4-H days. We'll take a look at it. And
Okay.
We'll come back to wrap it up with Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin.
Terrific.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take a moment just to introduce a couple of students that are here today for the 76th Annual New York State 4-H Capital Days. We have with us Katie McIntyre. Katie will be attending SUNY Morrisville in the fall, majoring in equine rehabilitation, and she's a senior at Averill Park High School here in the Capital District. And also Jana Berard, who's going to be attending SUNY Buffalo, majoring in dietetics, and she's also a senior at Averill Park High School. And they're accompanied by their mom, Jean. I just wanted to welcome them to the chamber and ask that you extend the cordialities of the House.
Gladly, Mr. McLaughlin. On behalf of the Speaker, on behalf of Mr. McLaughlin and all my colleagues, thank you for being here with us today. Enjoy the time that you're here with us. I know you also have a long trip back. Come back real soon. Thank you for being with us.
All right.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, it's always a fun moment and when you get to introduce some folks from the district. 2 great kids. We had breakfast in the morning. There's a whole group of 4-Hers down there from all over the state. There's great kids, having fun, and that's just one of the fun things you get to do as a legislator. I think they were a little embarrassed. You could tell from the looks on their face. They were probably a little uncomfortable standing up in a chamber, but it was great, and I think they enjoyed it, so pleasure to do that.
Were you in 4-H when you were a kid?
I was not. My wife was. Growing up in Massachusetts, we really didn't have it over there, at least not where I lived, but my wife was in 4-H in Scaticoke.
Yeah, me too, yeah. Oh, that's Scaticoke.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, that's going to do it. If you have any questions for Assemblyman McLaughlin, you can call him at his district office, and that number is 47905. You want to get in touch with Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin, you can do that by calling him at his district office, and that number is 4790542. Area code 518-479-0542. Assemblyman McLaughlin.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to see you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We'll see you again on Assembly Calendar. Until then, I'm Ted Flint.